Welcome back, everyone. Brian at Fort Hays State University. Today, we're going to continue our discussion on instructional design and assessment. Specifically, how can we enhance our instructional designs? So, without further ado, let's talk about our agenda. Beginning, we're going to start with the backwards design model. That's probably the most popular design model among professionals and instructors. And what this essentially is taking what we've learned or what we want our participants to learn, the outcome, in other words, and working backwards to design the content. But how can we take that to a whole new level? So I look at a couple of different models that have been evaluated by some principals or journalists, and looking if there's a way we can enhance that model using other models, specifically the SAM-R model, which we'll talk more about shortly. And then the rigor and relevance framework. So is there something we could add or make this whole process better for the backward design model? And then finally, we'll look at some shifts that are happening in the learning sector or curriculum design sector. So with backwards design model, we must keep the end in mind. What that means is what the outcome is for our participants is where we begin to adopting or creating our learning content. So think of it beyond just rather what the end is. According to one journalist, if we look at it from as a roadmap, we can see that we can build along the way instruction or learning assessments that are more relevant to our participants. So there is also a template available, I'll leave in the chat here or in the description of this video, and we could talk more about how we can do just that. The SAM-R model. In summary, we can look at the SAM-R model as redefining what we already have developed in the past. So let's say our learning outcome is to teach people the Google Workspace. Well, how can we innovate our curriculum to develop new learning tasks and modify it to fit our audience and augment it by improving the tech tools that are used to deliver it? And then finally, substituting where we need to, that doesn't require much change in our functionality. So when we look at the rigor and relevance framework, it slightly differs from the SAM-R model because it's adapting to the needs of the audience. We're using no longer jargon that may confuse or overwhelm our participants, but substituting it with common language. For instance, in the tech world, we use so many acronyms. You just saw one with the SAM-R. Perhaps we can use the model to explain it in common terms like I'm doing now. For instance, when you're looking at the Google Workspace, how can we make bigger sense of what we've learned? We explain to the participants that what if you take all the programs you use for your professional environment, maybe your Google or your document creator, your PowerPoint presenter software, your video conferencing software, take it all, including your email, and make it into one. That way, you don't have to bounce from application to application. And that would save you time, and it would also perhaps save your company money. So making a bigger picture of what they're going to learn so that they can put it into something more comprehensive, or something that they can take and say, okay, I understand what this learning this content's going to do for me. And then how can I apply what I learned in a new way? So when we take what we learned and then we regurgitate it in a way that hasn't been used before, maybe that means adding on to the programs we use with it. Maybe it's Google extensions in the browser. So in other words, you're in the internet, you're looking on a website, you need to collect information. What if there's an extension I can download and that would enhance my experience by shortening some more of my workload? So we want to recall their knowledge that they already have and figure out ways that we can build on it. And then finally, how we can apply all that information we've learned, something that they can walk and take away with. And so that's what the 4 big shifts tells us. When we could take content and make it real world, make it creative, allow the participants to think critically, to solve problems that are complex, and effectively communicate how they solve these problems, and change the control from the teacher and put it back in the hands of the participants so that they become the agents that make the change so they can grasp what they're learning more effectively. Because we know as adult learners, we need more hands-on, we need more previous experiences that are based on previous experiences. So that way we can build our learning content and make it to where it's usable right away for the participants. So instead of just asking them to do a task that's like design a birthday card with the Google Workspace, maybe they need it to do something already. And so by doing something already in their professional environment, like maybe they need to send out invitations for a guest list and they can use Google Meet and that'll be their learning outcome or their task. And that means enhancing the experience with tech. So if there's tech that's already out there that they're unaware of, we aren't doing our job as an instructor unless we open up that world to them and ask them to use that new tech in their learning assessments or their outcomes. So for instance, I mentioned an extension that can be done in the browser. If I'm teaching my participants how to use Google Workspace, maybe I need to show them where they can get more information beyond what I show them here. So that way they can problem solve with complex learning environments that go above and beyond the just norm that we see in the backwards design template, which is the learning outcome. So now we take the outcome and innovate it to a whole new level. And so what we've talked about now is backwards design, keeping the end in mind, and it's a roadmap we're walking them through using common language and making the content meaningful and relevant to them and building in more ways for them to innovate, complex tasks that take more thought and process to make them evolve where they are self-sufficient and they can create the change that we need. So what's next? What are your plans as a developer or designer in content that can take your instruction to the next level? I challenge you to put some of your thoughts out here in in the comment section and what you can do to make things better or different. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.